I'm Jenny Hall, and I am the Ending the Epidemic Program Manager at Women with a Vision. And my pronouns are she and her. And we're really excited to have you with us today.
I'm Ryan. I am from New Orleans. I'm excited to be part of this interview. My pronouns are she and her.
Hello, Ryan. I'm Charles Haywood. I'm the ETE Program Associate at Women with a Vision. Excited to have you today.
Thank you.
All right. So we wanted to start with something just fun. So since Get Loud, Louisiana is all, kind of along this musical theme, we thought we would go with, if you were a musical instrument, what would you be and why? I'm going to say a violin, maybe just because I like them a lot, but I think it kind of fits because you can play it like very soft and kind of like more refined, but then you can also play it like a fiddle and really, get a little crazy with it. And I think that suits me well because people often think I'm just quiet and nice, and not that I'm not nice, but that, I definitely do have the higher energy side. So I'm gonna go with that.
Initially, I was thinking something very melodic, like the piano, flute or harp, something that's just relaxing or can be relaxing. But then I'm sitting and I'm thinking like, nah, I think I'm a tuba. A tuba. And it is for multiple reasons. First of all, it's big, and I do feel a little bloated today. But also, because with the tuba you have it just expresses different things, and a lot of times when you have to blow off steam, and sometimes you have to huff and puff, and you need all of that extra breath to play the tuba. But funny thing about a tuba, and this is just my fun side, if you ever watch on the cartoons and you have someone walking, you may have seen it on the episode of Family Guy, and he was playing the tuba behind the guy that was walking. Every time he took a step, womp, womp, womp. And I was just laughing because it was annoying, but it was very funny to me. So I think I'm feeling very tuba-ish today.
I think I would be maybe the clarinet, because I think this instrument is the clarinet. It's in a lot of jazz bands. The sound is, in my opinion, a little obnoxious, but it also brings the group together, is what I would say. It's a loud horn. You can hear it from a mile away. People may not like it. It may be a little hard on the ears, but it brings the room together.
Clarinet?
Isn't it like that one that's like this long horn? Well, I can't do an impression of it. It's like
I'd love to hear you try.
A Susilo? Is that it? I don't know. Maybe the answer is I don't know.
It might be a clarinet.
Maybe it's a clarinet.
An oboe?
I don't know what an oboe looks like.
It's probably the clarinet. I think most people like the clarinet, though. Maybe not. To each their own.
At the end of the interview, I'll look up a photo of what this instrument is. I'll hold it to the screen, and then you'll all say, "Oh, that instrument."
Perfect.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be. Everybody's at the edge of their seat for that part of the interview, I know.
Yes. So just wanted to start off trying to kind of get a little temperature gauge, and we're wondering if HIV and or STIs is something that like comes up for you in whatever circles you're in. Is that something that you're having conversations about, like in, not every day, but in day-to-day life?
Well, yes, definitely. HIV and STIs come up in conversations as somebody who's sexually active. These are topics that I need to talk about with partners and potential partners. And I just think that this is an important thing to deal with. It may be an uncomfortable conversation to have, being tested and also using protection, but it is something that we all have to talk about and deal with.
Okay. Outside of partners, is it something that like you and friends feel comfortable kind of talking about those experiences?
My friends and I, we're comfortable talking about being tested, and also that's talking about STIs and HIV. I don't think that any of my friends have any qualms, or nobody's embarrassed about bringing that up amongst each other, women and men.
Do you and your friends know where you can get tested if you decided to have one?
Yes, a lot of us, at least my female friends, we go to Planned Parenthood to get tested. I'm unsure about my male friends really, but when I talk amongst my female friends, we all go to Planned Parenthood.
Well, so since it sounds like you have been tested before, um, maybe you could just kind of explain a little bit about like what that experience is like for someone who's never gone, who might be nervous about getting tested. So,
The experience can be nerve-wracking, even if you have never been tested before and okay, let me think about how to phrase this. It's a stressful experience, even if you know that you've been practicing safe sex. You can still be a little nervous. You go into a doctor's office and you'll get a blood test, or sometimes you'll have to take a urine test depending on where you're going. LabCorp, you'll have to take a urine test, but Planned Parenthood, they give you a blood test. An HIV test, they'll do a rapid blood test. They'll just give you a finger prick and they'll give you an answer right there. For those who may be nervous, I think that it's just important to think about that the test will be over quickly and that you're in good hands with the people that are giving you that test.
That's good, because I was going to ask you if you had any advice to give someone who is afraid of getting any type of screenings. What would it be? But I guess you basically just
I think that really just thinking that the results are going to be over quickly and that you're in good hands. That's really what I would the advice I would give somebody that is nervous about getting tested.
Okay. So I know you said amongst your friends, your female friends, that you guys have regular conversations about HIV, STIs, and just health in general. Outside of your circle, do you feel that HIV has a certain impact on? Does it impact people differently? Is that something that you recognize or that you see in your everyday community and life?
Honestly, not in my everyday life. I do have a very close friend that is HIV positive, and he lives with that every day, but he has a full healthy life, and I don't want to say that it does not affect him. Of course it affects him, but he does not live differently than anyone else. I'm unsure how to answer this without getting a little bit emotional, I guess. So it does affect people, not in my direct circle, but in his circle. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to answer that question. Personally, it does not affect me, but one of my friends, yes, and his family and husband, yes, it affects them. I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that.
No, you don't have to.
Great.
Emotional.
No, it's fine. Like, you can only answer from your experiences. Create a list of broad questions just to engage the conversation, and we want to get different viewpoints, just so that people can see, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will be able to relate to the things that you're doing. So it's totally fine. Please don't apologize at all.
Okay. I think at first it was he initially didn't want to share that with me, that he was HIV positive, and I think that there's a stigma around being HIV positive. And so that was hard for him to share that with me, even though we had been friends for so long. And I think he was afraid that I was going to react in a negative way. Like I wouldn't want to be his friend anymore, or have him sleep over, or be close to him and his family or his husband. I'm unsure. And so I think that a lot of people, you know, not just him, but a lot of people that are HIV positive may feel that way. Of course, I don't. I can't imagine what he's feeling. I can't relate, but I just think that's probably a lot of people feel that same way, that there's a lot of stigma around being positive. They don't want to share their experience with other people. So maybe they don't want to be tested because they're afraid that they are going to test positive. They don't want to confront their feelings or confront the reality. And that's something that he may have been going through.
Yeah, and one thing that we've recognized is that stigma plays a very, very big part in the fight against HIV, as well as the negative impact that it has on the community as a whole.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid to get tested. A lot of people are afraid to share their status. A lot of people are even afraid to seek medical help.
Right.
The stigma and the stereotypes that they would have to face every day just by trying to make positive choices that would actually have a great impact on their how well they take care of themselves. One of the questions we had was about stigma. So clearly you're very aware of the impact of stigma and how it can make a difference in the way someone actually lives their life, and whether or not they get the care that they need physically or even mentally, emotionally, can have a huge impact. So, thank you for speaking on that.
What are some things that you think need to happen in order to change people's perceptions around HIV and to try to get, reduce that stigma and make people feel more comfortable knowing their status and talking about it?
I mean, I think that the easiest thing, we are a television and movie obsessed culture. I think that more representation in TV and movies of HIV positive characters or anybody is going to bring so much attention to just the everyday life of somebody that's HIV positive. I mean, I know that sounds so simple or trivial, but that just if somebody is HIV positive and sees a normal human being on TV that's HIV positive, they can think, wow, that person on screen is living a normal life and is not a horrible stereotype of what it means to be HIV positive. Then that potentially could give somebody confidence in taking a test or going out and, sharing their experience with somebody. I mean, I think that TV and media makes a huge difference in people's lives. I mean, it's just a first step of many. Of course, we need representation in politics and things like that, but people in America are so glued to their television that that really would be, people in America, I would say, know more about TV characters than they know about politics. So that type of representation, even though it shouldn't be most important, but for a first step, I think that would be very important.
That would definitely
but yes, that's how it should be.
They would definitely open up doors for conversations that's needed.
Yeah.
Communities, households, where having the necessary conversations. And I agree with you. If there is the representation there of showing someone living their life and how it affects them, it can create additional conversations on maybe, maybe I might be supportive of people who are living with HIV. Maybe I might be an ally, or maybe I might just want to change my way of thinking because I'm looking at them thrive, going through what they're going through, and it might change the way some people view people living with HIV. So most definitely, I agree.
Yeah, it's silly, but that's just how it needs to be.
I mean, it is and it isn't. I think, representation in all sorts of different places really does matter. And it, I think that's something we've seen a lot in conversations about all sorts of different identities lately, that, you know, it really does make a big difference if you are seeing, you know, relatable characters that are trans or gay or, you know, of different racial backgrounds. And, you know, because for a long time, TV and the media really only showed one type of person. And that's not what America looks like. So I think, you know, it definitely does open doors and help start conversations. So, have you heard of the term ending the epidemic?
I have not heard that term.
Okay. So that's really what Charles and I and, you know, everyone that we're working with across the state are working on, is an ending the epidemic plan. So different states and or cities around the US are working on these right now. So they're basically strategies to really get us below, you know, epidemic levels for new diagnoses, and also just to improve the lives of people who are living with HIV. So Get Loud Louisiana, our little initiative here, is an ending the epidemic initiative. Going along with that, and I know we kind of just talked about this around the stigma piece, but what do you think needs to happen for us to see an end to this epidemic?
I mean, in terms of like political awareness, like going to Baton Rouge, like doing, you know, campaigns like that? Or do you mean like in locally, New Orleans, or?
We're actually working on a statewide plan. Whatever ideas you have, whether it's statewide, locally.
Are you going to, do you have any like interns from Tulane or LSU that work with you that could go to their campuses to start any kind of like tabling campaigns or anything like that? I think that would be helpful to start something on a college campus. I mean, of course, now is not the time since everybody's graduated, but or the term is over or whatever, but in August or September, I think that having a college representation from women with a vision would be good on campus if there isn't already one there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's definitely something we've talked about, but so more broadly speaking, like what is that about? Like going to colleges and tabling or talking with college students about HIV? Is the route there that we need to, you know, raise awareness or just have more conversations?
I think that having more conversations definitely at a younger age, and I understand that it's hard in Louisiana to do that because of it's Louisiana and that's just how it is here. So I think that it would be easier at colleges to have those conversations, because I'm unsure if there's I assume that it's going to be easier to have more of a free flowing conversation on college campuses, at least in the quad or whatever it is that at LSU or at I'm not LSU, at Loyola or LSU or Tulane or wherever, than it is at like Ursuline Academy or whatever. That you probably can't have.
We cannot go to Ursuline, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you can't have a conversation there that you can have on a college campus.
No.
And I think so the earlier you have these conversations, the less HIV is stigmatized. I mean, Jenny and I are lucky. We grew up in a place where we had sex ed at, you know, in 5th grade, you know, so we knew about this. We knew about sex ed and safe sex HIV early. So, and I wish that everybody here did, because then maybe people wouldn't be as scared to talk about HIV. You know, the rates of gonorrhea in Louisiana wouldn't be so high, for example. It's a statewide sex ed issue. It's a larger issue than just HIV, you know.
The South.
What?
Yeah, welcome to the South.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
We're definitely different from California.
Right.
One thing I do want to ask, since we are talking about ending the epidemic, what do you see as the biggest priority, and what do you see as the biggest barrier for ending the epidemic?
I think lack of education is the big barrier in Louisiana. Lack of sex education, and also I think that people are they're just scared of what they don't know, and they're scared of people who are different. I think that in Louisiana, maybe it's more of a closed community than people think. So if somebody is different, especially in some way that may be scary to somebody, and they're not educated about why somebody may be different, that's a huge barrier in Louisiana.
So with that answer, would you say that that might be the biggest priority as well?
Yes, I think that coming in, I think that more sex education is a big priority here in Louisiana. That's my. I mean, if I could change it, I would. Jenny may have told you that I'm very active with the New Orleans Abortion Fund. I mean, I see these protesters all the time and people that don't understand women's rights, needs, and body autonomy. So it's the same thing, that just a lot of people in Louisiana, they don't have access to sex education. They don't have access to birth control, to free birth control, to condoms, or whatever they might need. Planned Parenthood is vilified here. It's a sad situation. Yeah, I don't want to get angry about it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard not to sometimes. It's very frustrating when you feel like you know the answer and you can't do anything about it.
Yes. Yes. Trust me, everything that you're saying is the same thing that comes up in the conversations that we have, whether it's amongst colleagues and people who are fighting this fight, who've been doing it for a long time. But even when Jenny and I go out into the communities, we get the same conversation. Like, there is a lack of education. And because people just simply don't know, it just breeds ignorance, which is unfortunate. People are, like you said, people are afraid of what they don't know, but at the same time, people are afraid of what they know, because a lot of times what they know is always factual information.
Right.
So,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Narratives out there, and they take it and they run with it and they're stuck with it. Then naturally, that fear and the stigma and everything else just continues to build. So, oh yeah, we totally get everything that you're feeling, the anger, the need, all of it, because we know how important it is for prevention and education to become like mainstream all over again. So.
Well, I think that's why, with our plan, something that we really want to try to work on, that we're working on right now, is working with people outside of the HIV world, because we know with so many of those things, it's not going to change if it's just us. We need everyone who wants to see sex education coming together and pushing for that, or everyone who is tired of the structural racism to find ways to address that, because that's something that also feeds into this epidemic a lot in terms of health disparities and who is most impacted in our state, especially. Trying to bring everyone together, like the clarinet or whatever.
What is that instrument? It's like a saxophone. It's like I don't know. Okay.
But you know what? That's all what Get Loud Louisiana is about. When we're working on ideas and trying to figure out what name we would give this plan. We wanted something that's going to unify the state and something that connects everybody across the state of Louisiana. And we love to eat, but we also love great music. So that's where the Get Loud came from, and between the tuba and the clarinet and the violin.
Whatever. Yeah.
But it would definitely attention.
It's National HIV Testing Day in a couple weeks, and so I want to bring it back to that for just a minute. I know we kind of started off with that. Could you tell us why you think it is important to get tested for HIV, and how often you think people should be getting tested?
I think that if one is sexually active, they should be tested maybe once every 6 months, once every 3 to 6 months, I think is very important. I don't know if that's excessive. That's just, it's better to get tested more than to never get tested. I think it's important to get tested for HIV because in Louisiana, because there is in my experience, many people do not want to use protection. They don't have access to protection. They don't feel that they need it because they assume that they are sleeping with people that do not have HIV or that they're not exposed to HIV. So I think that it's important to be safe, even if you think, oh, whatever. I don't think that person was unsafe. You never know. You need to get tested as much as you think you need to. I think 6 months, 3 to 6 months, depending on how many partners you have.
My other question was going to be, who do you think should get tested? But
I think everybody, everybody who's sexually active should be tested. I don't think that's an excessive or ridiculous thing to say. I think everybody who's sexually active should be tested.
Yeah, and you said something interesting that people like assume that someone looks safe. And like, what does that mean? Like, what does living with HIV look like? It doesn't have a look.
That's a great question. It doesn't have a look. I don't think it has a look. So that's why I get tested. So I think that people assume somebody that's, I don't know. It's hard for me to assume what somebody looks like that has HIV, I guess. Somebody thinks that it's unfortunate that the person that is on television is portrayed as a drug addict, African-American male is the person that somebody thinks is the one that's going to be HIV positive, which is not true. So somebody thinks that if they're having sex with a white banker, that they are safe, which is not true. So that is why you should be tested no matter what you're doing if you're sexually active. It's unfortunate that that's the image that people have in their mind of what the person looks like that has HIV.
I was about to have a lot more to say to that, but my comment would definitely take this conversation into yeah.
Okay.
But I
talk about that another time if you want to. Yeah, we can all talk about it.
Well, no, it's just the negative images of a Black man in general. Yeah. We're always connected to anything,
Yeah.
So.
Or the negative image of people who use drugs too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to ask, which I can already assume that I know the answer to it just based off the conversation. I was going to ask if you heard of PrEP, and do you know anyone that may actually use PrEP?
I have a few friends that use PrEP. I've heard of PrEP. I don't use PrEP, or I've talked about it with my doctor, but they have advised that because I'm not as sexually active anymore. They advised that I didn't need to take it, or they advised me not to take it. But I have a few friends that do take PrEP.
Is that something that you brought up with your doctor, or that your doctor mentioned to you?
I brought it up because I was wondering if it's something that I should be taking because I am sexually active. And they said that I was not sexually active in the communities that really warranted me to take PrEP.
In the communities?
That's what the doctor said.
What communities are those? Because for someone who's sexually active in, trying to get information on PrEP.
Well, when I was trying to now we're talking about the doctor. I was primarily having sex with cisgender heterosexual men. They did not think that I needed to take PrEP. And I wasn't as sexually active as I once was. That's what the doctor told me. And I asked about it. If I should be taking PrEP. And that's what the doctor told me.
Okay, interesting. There's a lot there, but I think it's great that you asked, because I don't think that a lot of people, maybe especially like young white women like yourselves, think to ask about PrEP, because I think there's still also this kind of stereotype about who takes PrEP too. Mostly, I think being gay men. I think that's really cool that you thought to ask your provider. And
the provider just had that notion in their brain that it was only for gay men, and that's why they didn't want me to take it, or they didn't think I should, or I needed to take it. I don't know. I followed the doctor's orders. I didn't take the they didn't give me the PrEP. So
yeah, no, I mean, but that's interesting too, because, I think a lot of people just follow the doctor's orders, but there is a lot of education that still needs to happen amongst providers in our state about things like PrEP.
right.
I think a lot of people do feel uncomfortable prescribing it or around testing, because if they do have someone that tests positive, then they don't know what to do. And then we even hear about doctors who have like gross misunderstandings of what living with HIV means, or transmission. Right. And, they're perpetuating that stigma themselves. Right. So that's, another big piece, and that people should know that they can question their doctors, right? But also, if that's an informed, decision you guys made together, then that's great.
I won't say on camera what doctor it was.
We work with them all, so yeah, we don't want to call you. Have you heard of, before we go on to that, do you know what PrEP stands for?
I do not. No, I don't. Preventative something. Is prevention in PrEP?
PrEP is prevention.
The word prevention in there.
Yeah.
No, but PrEP is prevention. PrEP is definitely a form of prevention.
Okay. I do not know what PrEP stands for. I mean, I know what PrEP is. I just don't. Did you ask me what PrEP is or what it stands for?
No, what it stands for. Just curious.
Oh, no, I don't know what it stands for.
A bonus question.
Oh, no. I don't know what it stands for, no.
Okay. It's pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Oh, okay.
So now you know. And then there's also PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. And that's what you can take if you think you've been exposed.
Okay.
But only in a small window after.
Right.
What's that?
Hopefully, if that was the case, you wouldn't have to go back to the same doctor for.
I'm not gonna. I haven't been back to that same doctor.
Ooh, one more question. Are you familiar with U equals U? Have you heard of U?
With the what?
U equals U.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so U equals U is another form of prevention. So U equals U stands for undetectable equals untransmittable. So someone who is living with HIV, after being on their regimen, they can get their viral load to a level that is so low till it can't be detected. So they're undetectable. Once you become undetectable, it's impossible, according to the CDC, for you to be able to transmit the HIV virus to someone else. So that's a big piece that we're trying to educate the community on. Like, a lot of people just have this fear of people living with HIV, and then people who are living with HIV have the fear of putting themselves in a position where someone may think that they're trying to harm them, or they can't live their lives and just be as, I don't want to say as normal, because they are normal. They're just as normal as anyone else. But it does take a lot of pressure off of someone, knowing that you can be in a relationship with someone, or you can be open about your status, because you know that there's nothing that you can do to harm the next person. So we definitely want to educate the public more on U equals U. So that's why I asked if you had even heard of it yet. But it's definitely a good thing, and definitely going to make a huge impact as we continue to push to get Louisiana playing.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you know someone is on treatment and they're undetectable, they're like the safest person, like with someone who doesn't get tested regularly or has never been tested, you have no idea what's going on. So it's, just interesting how people still have this idea of like, oh, I can't do that. But really, if someone's on their meds and undetectable, then there's no way you're gonna be transmitting anything. So
how do you feel, Ryan?
I feel good. I feel bad about that prep talk right there, but I feel good. Otherwise, I'm sorry I brought that up. But
no. The thing about it is, again,
okay,
I'm apologizing because what we want is what you gave. We want you to be as honest and as open and as comfortable sharing with us. So there's no right answers. You don't have to.
I shared my experience at that place also, which was not very friendly anyway. So fine. So it's fine.
Well, that's too bad. No, and like I said, if that is something you guys talked about and like assessed your risk in an informed way, then like that's okay. It's not like they should have definitely prescribed you PrEP. It's just again, like thinking about what is like the stereotype or the biases that the provider might have as well. Or what like actually makes sense for you, because I think anyone can take PrEP if they're sexually active, but there's also reasons you might not want to. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But
the way that they, looking back, of course, now the way that they described to me the reasoning why I didn't need to take PrEP is not the best and sensitive and correct reasoning why. You know what I mean? So technically I am a candidate for PrEP because I'm sexually active, but then what they said to me about why I didn't need to take PrEP was incorrect and biased. So that's something that doctor needs to think about or relearn to do something. So that's, so that's something that I should have thought about when I was talking to the doctor,
Yeah, well, now you're sharing it with some other people, and so they can kind of let that inform how they interact with their doctor if they talk about PrEP, and maybe we'll start some conversations. So, do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. This has been not as scary as I thought it would be, I guess. I wasn't really sure what to expect.
We're not scary.
I know you're not scary. Yeah, well, thank you very much for thinking of me for this interview. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being here. We're really, like Charles said earlier, just trying to get different perspectives and talk to people, with different backgrounds and experiences to try to see, what people think and what people already know. And through that, trying to help other people have those conversations and hopefully learn some things. So thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you, Ryan.